Okay, let's try and unpack this. For decades, when we talked automation, it was always factory floors, right?
Yeah.
Assembly lines, robots lifting things.
That was the picture, yeah. Physical stuff. The Industrial Revolution, we sort of understood.
But this new wave we're deep diving into now, it's fueled by robotic process automation, RPA, and especially this really powerful generative AI. It feels fundamentally different.
It is, because it targets the mind, not just muscle. It's not about replacing brute force anymore. It's about analytical processing.
So we're talking accountants, programmers.
Exactly. Mid-level programmers, claims adjusters, even customer service managers. These, white-collar jobs that always felt kind of insulated from this stuff.
And the scale of it just seems massive, which is why the debate around it is, well, incredibly polarized.
Definitely.
Our sources today really set up this perfect point-counterpoint. It's necessary, I think. Is this heading towards huge value creation, maybe global prosperity?
Or is it heading straight for, catastrophic social instability?
That's the core conflict, and it's one you absolutely need to be informed about right now.
Yeah, that's precisely our mission here. We wanted to quickly unpack those two really powerful opposing worldviews for you.
Okay.
And right at the heart of it, there's this key distinction about work itself. You're the optimist saying, look, automation only destroys tasks.
Right, not jobs. It forces us to reorganize into new, maybe better jobs eventually.
That's the idea. But the skeptic immediately fires back.
See.
Well, that's a nice long-term theory, maybe.
Yeah.
But in reality, the speed of this job destruction is it's too fast. Society, governments, our education systems, they just can't adapt quickly enough.
And the result is immediate upheaval. Chaos almost.
Dramatic upheaval, yeah. That's the warning.
Okay, so let's start with the brighter side then, the value creation camp, the optimists.
Let's do it. Let's look at that sort of utopian vision first.
Yeah.
The optimist view basically holds that automation is a net positive overall. Because these tools, they act like an exponential amplifier for humans. They liberate just vast amounts of human capital.
How so?
Well, think about all the routine, repetitive analytical tasks. When software handles that, running 247, humans are freed up.
Freed up for?
For higher value functions, things requiring creativity, strategy, complex problem solving, and that boosts overall productivity, and eventually, the argument goes, it boosts wages overall.
Okay, and central to this, you mentioned this idea of the superhuman. That feels different from past automation waves.
Exactly. It's not just about replacement, it's about augmentation.
Strapping a rocket to their back, as one source put it.
Yeah, something like that. Think of, say, a mid-level corporate lawyer. Before, maybe drafting a complex 50-page brief took 3 days. Tedious research, pulling precedents, structuring arguments.
Right, the grunt work.
That chunk, maybe 80% of the time, the AI can potentially do in minutes now.
Wow.
So the lawyer is freed up to focus purely on the really complex stuff.
Yeah.
The legal strategy, the client nuances, the human negotiation aspect.
Okay, but hang on. If the tech is doing 80% of the work, doesn't that just mean the company needs, 80% fewer lawyers? How does that increase the bargaining power of the one who's left?
See, that's the absolute core of the disagreement. The value creation camp argues the output of that remaining lawyer has just multiplied massively, maybe 5 times, 10 times.
Their individual productions skyrocket.
Exactly. It's so massive, and the quality of their focused, strategic work is so high that their value to the firm actually goes up dramatically. They become this indispensable superhuman knowledge worker.
Meaning their wage bargaining power increases. They can command a higher salary.
That's the argument. They command a higher price for that concentrated intellectual effort. The whole economic pie expands, benefiting these highly skilled individuals.
Okay, that's the individual level.
Yep.
But the optimist view gets even more ambitious, right?
Yeah.
It talks about a massive economic restructuring. The new infrastructure.
Yeah, this is the liberated capital argument. So when operational costs, production costs, get slashed by automation, you don't need that huge team processing insurance claims anymore.
Okay.
That capital, that money saved, it doesn't just disappear into thin air.
Right.
It gets liberated.
Yeah.
And historically, that liberated capital gets reinvested. The optimist argues it'll pour into R&D, expansion, creating a whole new infrastructure of specialized services and tech that, frankly, didn't exist before.
And we're actually seeing examples of this already. New job categories popping up.
We are. The sources point to fields that have emerged almost overnight, like prompt engineering.
Which is basically Getting good at talking to AI.
Essentially, yeah. It's the specialized skill of formulating exactly the right questions and instructions to get the AI to produce the best possible results. It's an art and a science.
Hmm.
And maybe even more significantly, MLOps, machine learning operations.
Okay, what's that?
This isn't just basic IT maintenance. This is about industrializing AI. It's a specialized engineering discipline focused on setting up, managing, scaling potentially thousands of different AI models in a live production environment.
So ensuring data quality, monitoring performance, security, all that stuff.
All of it.
Huh.
It's the critical, high-skilled pipeline, the infrastructure needed to even make that superhuman worker possible at scale.
Okay, that sounds like a pretty clear path forward, doesn't it? Retrain people for MLOps, prompt engineering, and society benefits hugely.
It does sound appealing, but that's precisely where the skeptics, the proponents of social stability, step in with a pretty sobering reality check.
They disagree fundamentally on the timeline.
Yeah.
And who actually benefits?
Exactly. The timeline and the distribution mechanism. The skeptic isn't necessarily arguing that zero value is created.
Right, they're not saying AI is useless.
No, their focus is laser sharp on the immediate social cost.
And that cost comes from?
Well, they lean heavily on historical data, but argue this time is different. The speed of job destruction, particularly in the white-collar sector, is just exponentially faster than anything we saw on the factory floor.
Faster than society can handle.
Far faster, they argue, than our ability to requalify people or generate entirely new sectors like MLOps quickly enough to absorb everyone who's displaced.
And that speed mismatch leads directly to
A drastic, rapid increase in inequality. That's the immediate fallout they predict.
Okay, this raises that uncomfortable question then. If the superhuman argument suggests the highly skilled do better, and these new MLOps jobs are also highly skilled, who gets squeezed? Who gets hit hardest?
The skeptic argument is chillingly precise here.
Yeah.
The AI attack vector is aimed squarely at the middle of the labor market.
The middle, meaning?
Think about those medium-level white-collar jobs, the ones relying heavily on predictable, structured information processing.
Insurance claim adjusters, mortgage underwriters, paralegals doing discovery.
Exactly. Internal auditors, those kinds of roles. These are the bedrock of the stable middle-class income for decades.
So the immediate outcome isn't necessarily mass unemployment across the board, but market polarization.
That's the term, yes, market polarization. The middle vanishes, leaving two extremes.
Yeah.
On one end, you still have jobs needing high social intelligence, complex negotiation, genuine creativity, intricate physical coordination, or direct, messy human contact.
Like managers, therapists, artists, maybe plumbers.
Right. And on the other extreme, you still have low-wage manual labor that's just physically difficult or uneconomical to automate right now, cleaning, some delivery jobs, care work perhaps.
But the entire middle, the pathway to financial stability for many, that gets hollowed out.
That's the fear, squeezed out. And the skeptic argues this leads directly to social fragility, instability.
And that fragility is amplified by the actual economics of automation, something the skeptics call wealth accumulation at the top.
Yes, and this is a really crucial point for you to grasp because it explains why that liberated capital we talked about earlier might not end up benefiting society broadly.
Okay, explain that mechanism.
It's the core economic friction point. Companies that adopt mass automation see huge, almost instant profit increases. Why? Because their cost structure changes fundamentally.
And the key number is?
Zero. The marginal cost of a software robot is effectively zero.
Okay, unpack the significance of zero marginal cost. That feels like the real game changer here, something we haven't really seen before at this scale.
Think about it like this. A human worker might cost a company, what, $80,000 a year?
Yeah.
Salary, benefits, office space, coffee.
Sure, all in. And they work, say, 40 hours a week.
Right. Now, you replace that worker with an RPA script. Once you've paid for the initial software development and setup, which can be significant, mind you, running that script 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, maybe pennies. A few $100s a year in electricity and cloud server time, perhaps. It's a massive upfront investment, potentially, but then near zero cost for infinite, relentless execution.
So the savings for the company are instant, they're profound, and they're ongoing.
Exactly. And here's the crux for the skeptic. That enormous increase in profit that saved $80,000 per worker isn't being widely distributed through salaries anymore because the company simply doesn't need as many of those workers.
So where does it go?
It concentrates. Primarily, the argument goes, it flows to the executives who championed and implemented the automation and even more so to the shareholders who own the capital, who own the company's stock.
So this mechanism directly fuels wealth concentration at the very top.
That's the skeptic's argument, yes. It massively increases profit hoarding and exacerbates that market polarization we just discussed. It happens almost automatically.
Wow. Okay, so we have these two completely different diagnoses of what's happening. One sees a temporary transition needing upskilling towards these superhumans.
While the other sees a fundamental, maybe permanent economic shift that just eliminates the traditional middle class.
Which means, logically, the solutions they propose to deal with this are going to be just as different. Polar opposites, really.
Absolutely. And that brings us to the final segment in our sources, the policy debate. It boils down to a core conflict. Should the focus be on training or on redistribution?
Let's take the Optimist solution first. Their argument, if I understand it, is that the main focus has to be on active requalification.
That's right. They say, look, work is going to change. That's inevitable. So the real debate should be about how we support people through that transition.
The problem isn't a lack of jobs overall, eventually, but a lack of the right skills for the new jobs.
Precisely. Skill scarcity, not job scarcity. So this means massive investment in requalification programs. It means education systems needing a major overhaul to focus on competence, creativity, complex problem-solving, collaboration skills.
Not just memorizing information that an AI can access instantly.
Exactly. And they really champion strong public-private partnerships. Companies and governments working together to manage the displacement and help transition workers into that MLOps and superhuman economy.
Okay, that sounds proactive. But the skeptic must have a major counter to that.
Oh, they do. The skeptic basically says, hold on a second. If automation is so successful, so widespread, that fundamentally decouples work from income for tens of millions of people almost overnight,
Then training them for jobs that might not exist in sufficient numbers or that they can't realistically pivot to quickly enough?
it isn't going to solve the immediate crisis, the crisis of basic survival, of maintaining social stability.
So if retraining isn't enough or isn't fast enough, what's the skeptic's answer?
If the marginal cost of much labor is heading towards zero for companies, the skeptic argues the only urgent, necessary conversation is about wealth redistribution mechanisms. How do we ensure a basic level of functioning stable society when work and income are no longer tightly linked for so many?
And the sources mention two specific policy ideas that get debated a lot in this context.
Yes. First, there's the one everyone's heard about, universal basic income, or UBI.
Just a baseline income floor for everyone, regardless of employment status, to ensure survival, dignity, maybe?
That's the concept. The second approach mentioned, which is perhaps more direct, is the idea of a robot tax.
Taxing the robots themselves, or the companies using them.
Essentially, taxing the use of automation. It could be based on the actual usage or maybe the volume of transactions performed by automated systems.
And the idea behind that is,
It's pretty simple. If capital, in the form of automation, is replacing labor, then that capital should be taxed at the point of replacement.
and the revenue generated from that tag.
Would be used to fund the social safety nets, the transition programs, maybe even the UBI needed to support the displaced human labor. It directly links the mechanism of displacement to the source of funding for the solution.
Okay, so if we try and connect all these threads back to the big picture for you, the listener, you now have this fundamental tension laid out.
Yeah, on one side, you've got this promise, increased individual power, this idea of superhuman output, entirely new technical infrastructure being built.
But on the other side, you have these very serious, very immediate risks. Market polarization, the potential elimination of the middle class, and this unchecked profit hoarding driven by that zero marginal cost of software labor.
And make no mistake, this automation revolution, it's happening right now. It's not science fiction. Whether you're an executive signing off on a huge RPA project or you're a professional noticing an AI tool starting to draft your reports, it's here.
So the choices we make collectively about how we manage these enormous productivity gains, they're going to define what our society looks like in the very near future, the next decade even.
Absolutely.
And that really brings us to the central question hanging over this entire debate, the one that sources kind of leave us grappling with, the challenge you now have to consider.
Which is
the primary solution to this inevitable and likely very rapid rise in inequality, more training and adaptation, believing we can upskill fast enough.
Or is it some form of mandatory redistribution? A UBI, a robot tax, something else entirely? a fundamental rethinking of how value is shared.
That choice, or maybe some complex combination of the two, that's going to determine whether this technological revolution leads to broader prosperity or just prosperity for a select few, leaving potentially widespread instability behind. It's the crucial question for all of us going forward.